The movie begins with a scene where a small meteor heads directly toward Earth, fragmenting into pieces along its journey. 15 years old Lyra Arapova, forced to get used to life with her stepfather Boris and younger brother Igor, takes part in school running competitions, which end in failure. Her friend, Misha, runs out right before the finish line with a lighted flare in the prosthetic right arm, causing her a panic attack. She is terrified any fire after a fire in a faulty elevator 6 years before the events of the film, which left severe mental and physical wounds, which later manifests itself at his brother's birthday. Valery Arapov, a flight engineer who has been permanently stationed on the Mir space station for the past 6 years, uses a classified search module equipped with powerful television cameras and equipment for remote hacking of computer systems in order to look at his daughter's participation in competitions through the city's CCTV camera system, and later reports the incident ex-wife Svetlana. After that, he orders the artificial intelligence of the Mira station to clean up the logs of equipment use, but still gets a scolding from the station commander Peter Antonov, immediately after that, starting to discuss the asteroid flyby and the meteor shower immediately following it with the Mission Control Center. Despite the fact that the meteor shower does not threaten the inhabitants of the Earth, scientist Gennady Ryabanov expresses concern that their data may be erroneous, and for security reasons it is worth evacuating the entire population of the Primorsky, Khabarovsk territories, as well as the Magadan region. However, the head of the Mission Control Center Alexei Fomin demands to give a clear answer that the meteor shower will not overcome the atmosphere of the planet. In the evening, Lyra talks to Misha, who takes her to an unfinished high-rise, from where beautiful views of the city open. At this time, Arapov is playing guitar and discussing life with artificial intelligence. The next morning, residents of Vladivostok are preparing to watch the asteroid fly by. Lyra gives her binoculars to Igor and suggests that he go to that very high-rise, and the station uses equipment to study the asteroid and meteor shower. After the passage of the meteorite, Ryabanov notices something is wrong, and after a short study of the data, they receive terrible information. It turns out that the width of the meteor shower is much wider than expected, and in 7 minutes the meteor shower will cover the station, which will not have time to leave the affected area, and then the Earth. Arapov orders Mira to show the scheme of meteorites falling to Earth, and after learning that Vladivostok will be under attack, orders her to start calling Lyra's phone in all possible ways, and manages to literally in the last seconds, right after he told his daughter to run. The meteor shower blows the undocked heavy module of the station in a hurry. Its fragment is already the station itself, and meteorites, passing through the dense layers of the atmosphere, fall on the city. Lyra tries to leave the rapidly collapsing house in a hurry, trying to dodge pieces of concrete falling from the ceiling and stand on her feet during shock waves from meteorite falls, but because of a crack in the stairs she has to jump from the second floor to the roof of the car. After that, Misha finds her, with the help of which she rescues a child from a crushed car, and then to escape from the strongest shock wave caused by a meteorite falling in the immediate vicinity. Immediately after that, the building near which they are standing collapses, and Misha manages to push Lyra away before he is buried under the rubble. Not having time to understand what happened, she is hit by a car with 2 pensioners who pick her up and try to take her away. The car rides on the Golden Bridge, miraculously dodging a bus that broke into a skid, instantly collecting a massive accident that ended in an explosion. Lyra recovers from it, but immediately a meteorite hits the bridge, which destroys one of the pylons, which falls directly on the span, and the bridge, unable to withstand the load, rapidly collapses. They stop in the parking lot of a shopping center, but immediately several buildings collapse at once, which causes a dust cloud to rapidly overtake Lyra, who is trying to escape in a toy store. Shortly after the end of the meteor shower, Arapov wakes up at the station. After requesting a status report from Mira, he learns that the station has moved away from the meteor shower, having received critical damage, due to which depressurization occurred at the station, and everyone except him died. Mira also compiles a report on what happened on Earth. Territories from Australia and New Zealand to the Russian Far East and Japan were in the affected area, and a lot of destruction was caused not by meteorites, but by a tsunami. Rescue operations are underway in Vladivostok, which has turned into ruins, and a field hospital has been deployed at the Far Eastern Federal University base, which is practically untouched by meteorites. The AI report interrupts the call from the Mission Control Center. Fomin, in view of the lack of an opportunity to save the station, orders Arapov to leave it immediately, since in 3 hours it will enter the dense layers of the atmosphere. The scene is interrupted by a flashback about Lyra's early childhood, when she gets stuck in the elevator, and Arapov tries to open the locked doors with his hands, and meanwhile a fire breaks out in the elevator shaft. Nowadays, Arapov, using a baby monitor in the form of a teddy bear, since her phone is broken, contacts her daughter and, informing her that her mother is on Russian island, there is no information about her brother, and their house is destroyed, takes her to rescuers who send her to a field hospital deployed near the destroyed bridge. Arapov gets in touch with his ex-wife and connects her with her daughter. Svetlana informs that the Russian bridge has been destroyed and cannot take her away, and Lyra warns that Igor is not among the children who are being evacuated to the island. Mira compiles a report on the high-rise where Igor is located, and finds out that the building has received critical destruction of load-bearing structures and may collapse at any second. Immediately after that, the backup batteries of the compartment are discharged, and Arapov has to go into outer space in order to stretch the cable to the batteries on another part of the station. At the same time, Lyra penetrates into a collapsing high-rise in order to find her brother, and everyone is forced to struggle with the problems that arise along the way. However, when Arapov manages to restore the work of the search, he learns that Lyra has entered the building, and now in a hurry returns to his compartment. Mira barely manages to find a way out, and Lyra and Igor find it even harder to get out. At some point, due to a collapse inside the building, Lyra drops the baby monitor, which fails, and Arapov loses contact with his daughter. Lyra and Igor, due to the collapse of the building and the resulting dust cloud, have to take shelter inside the store, where she tells why Arapov has been staying at the station for the last 6 years. The story is connected with a fire in the elevator. When the dust has more or less settled down, they get out of the store through the emergency exit, where they notice an abandoned car honking in the distance. Immediately after they approach the car, another car starts honking, and then the traffic light. Igor assumes that Arapov began to connect to different devices and so lead the children. It turns out, although the idea was suggested by Mira, using any working lighting equipment, and even an inflatable person, he leads them around the city, finally taking them to the field hospital near the Golden Bridge. But when it seemed that everything was over, a powerful explosion is heard, and Igor is thrown away by a shock wave. The wave was so powerful that an unguided helicopter crashed near the hospital. Soon after finding her brother, who hit his head in a fall and seemed to be shell-shocked, she goes to the hospital tent, packed with children and doctors who can't help her. In desperation, she asks to let them on a helicopter flying to Russian island, but a Marine blocks her way, telling her that the helicopter is full. Suddenly, Misha jumps out of the helicopter alive, and Igor is put inside instead of him. Arapov, having learned about the explosion, cancels the evacuation and continues to monitor the situation. Mira reports that the burning tanker on which the explosion occurred still poses a danger. At any moment a second explosion may be heard, which will destroy half of the already destroyed city. Arapov calls Misha's phone, and after a short argument, forces him to hand over the phone to his daughter, after which he tells them to run as far as possible according to the prompts of Mira. In response, she says that she is not going to do what Arapov himself once did, from Lyra's point of view. In anger, she throws the phone into the bay, and asks a friend how they can get to the tanker. Meanwhile, Svetlana, who has moved away from Igor's bed, who still received a slight concussion, calls Arapov and admits that he could not help Lyra, as he once could not help her 6 years ago. She asks in shock if he is hungry, and then says that now Arapov is the only person in the world who can somehow help Lyra. Lyra and Misha, having found a boat, sail to the tanker, and discuss why Misha is having fun all the time. It turns out that he lost his arm while playing with a firecracker as a teenager. Having penetrated the tanker, they find flashlights and try to get to the remote control of the fire extinguishing system. However, after repairing the baby monitor, they learn from Arapov that the entire compartment through which they wanted to pass is on fire, and orders them to go through the lower deck to the engine room, where the remote control of the fire extinguishing system is located, which turned out to be faulty when turned on. Arapov says that the system has manual activation, but Misha, without thinking, opens the compartment, which turned out to be engulfed in flames, and throws it back under pressure. At this moment, the cable that provided power to the Arapov compartment systems breaks at the station. He tries to turn off anything, but Mira suggests a solution to the problem, to use her own power source, but this action will kill Mira, and Arapov has to turn it off, since Mira herself is not capable of self-destruction. So, he manages to restore power to the search module and restore communication with Lyra. He honestly tells her that in a few minutes the station will burn up in the atmosphere and uses Misha's prosthesis to take his daughter by the hand, who understands that her father will not get out. Arapov says goodbye to his daughter and tells her how to get through the fire. In the last minutes of communication, he shouts to her that she can, and then sings her a cosmic song to calm them down. She imagines her father giving her his hand, and taking it, she walks through the fire. Arapov looks at a small photo of Lyra, which turned out to be a folded family photo, and in the last seconds of his life he sees a butterfly that lived at the station before freezing in a vacuum come to life. Climbing out onto the deck, which is already being flooded with fireboats, she sees the station burning down in the atmosphere. Soon she is taken to the Far Eastern Federal University Field Hospital, where she meets her mother, who understands without words that Arapov died, and reconciles with her stepfather and younger brother. There she also sees crippled, but alive pensioners, whom she met during a meteor shower. Sometime later, scenes of the Golden Bridge being rebuilt are shown, as well as the family's vacation on the shore of the bay. Lyra is no longer shy about scars. In the last scene, a butterfly similar to the one that was at the station flies up to the teddy bear that accompanied Lyra throughout the film.